In the stillness before dawn, when the world is not yet hurried, when the mind has not yet scattered into 1,000 voices of worry and desire, there lies a sacred silence. In that silence is the seed of awakening, not as a miracle, not as a gift bestowed, but as a deep remembering of something ancient and true. You were not born to suffer endlessly, nor to wander aimlessly. You were born with the capacity to understand the nature of reality itself, and to do that, to truly see, you must be willing to look into your own mind, with courage, with honesty, and with a tenderness the world may have long since taught you to forget. There is no thunderous voice from the heavens, no divine script carved in stone to dictate your salvation. There is only the Dharma, the living truth, discovered not through belief, but through direct experience, through seeing things as they truly are. The Buddha did not demand worship. He offered a path. He offered a mirror in which to observe the self, and then to realize that this self, this clinging bundle of craving and fear, is not fixed. It is not eternal. It is not even real in the way we think it is. And in that realization lies liberation. This is not a call to blind faith. The Buddha's invitation is radical. Come and see for yourself. Let the light of awareness illuminate the shadows within you. Let mindfulness strip away illusion. The path begins not with belief, but with attention. To pay attention is to begin to love the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it dismantles the scaffolding of identity you've spent a lifetime building. You must begin where you are, with your breath, with your suffering, with your questions. The first noble truth is not an indictment. It is an embrace. Life contains dukkha, unease, dissatisfaction, stress. To see this is not pessimism. It is the opening of the eye. For how can one heal what one refuses to acknowledge? The pain is real, but it is not your enemy. It is the messenger, and the message is simple. Wake up. Every clinging, every aversion, every moment we demand the world conform to our wishes. This is the root of our suffering. But even this too is a teaching. If we are suffering, it means we are alive. It means we have something to learn. It means the Dharma is not a doctrine to be memorized, but a mirror held up to our everyday lives. Your impatience, your jealousy, your despair, these are not obstacles to awakening. They are gateways. They are invitations to practice. And what is this practice? It begins with right view, a clear seeing, unclouded by opinion, unchained from habit. Right view is not a philosophy. It is a lens through which the world becomes translucent. To see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be, is to begin to see the web of interdependence connecting all things. Nothing arises independently. No thought, no action, no self. This insight is not abstract. It is intimate. It touches how you listen to your child, how you speak to a stranger, how you sit with your own sadness. When you see clearly, you do not dominate the world. You harmonize with it. You no longer ask, what can I take from life? But instead, what is life asking of me? And so we arrive at intention, not the wishful thinking of the ego, but the noble aspiration of the heart. Right intention is born from clarity. When we see suffering clearly, compassion arises. When we see impermanence clearly, clinging loosens. Right intention is not just about being good. It is about being real, being aligned. When your intentions are rooted in non-harming, in renunciation, in loving kindness, every action becomes a thread in the tapestry of liberation. But intention alone is not enough. The path demands embodiment. Speech that heals rather than harms, action that uplifts rather than exploits, livelihood that sustains rather than consumes. The Eightfold Path is not a ladder to climb, it is a circle, a way of being, a way of walking through this world with dignity, with grace, with a quiet fire burning in the heart. Still, the mind resists, it wanders, it rebels, it insists on its stories of who we are, what we deserve, what we fear. This is why we practice mindfulness, not to control the mind, but to befriend it, to see its games and habits without judgment. The mind is not the enemy, it is the field of transformation. And so we sit, and in sitting we discover the breath becomes a doorway, the body becomes a teacher. We learn to stay with discomfort, to stay with longing, to stay with joy. In staying, we discover that all things arise and pass away, that no emotion is final, that no state is permanent, and that, behind all the noise, there is a silence, not empty but full of presence, full of peace. This peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of understanding. To understand is to no longer resist what is. It is to bow to the impermanence of all things, not in defeat, but in reverence. For it is only when we stop grasping that we are free to truly live. We believe we must chase happiness, that it lies somewhere just beyond the next success, the next relationship, the next escape. But the Buddha's wisdom is fierce in its simplicity. Happiness does not come from getting what you want. Happiness comes from wanting less, not from dulling your desires, but from understanding them, seeing how each one promises completion, but delivers only a fleeting satisfaction, followed by a deeper thirst. And so we come to wisdom, not as accumulated knowledge, but as insight born from silence, from stillness, from seeing. Wisdom is not cleverness. It is not reserved for scholars or sages in caves. It belongs to anyone who dares to look within and meet themselves without flinching. You don't find wisdom in distant philosophies, you find it in how you respond when someone interrupts you, in whether you reach for your phone the moment loneliness appears, in how you hold your fear without letting it harden into anger. True wisdom is inseparable from compassion, for the more clearly you see the nature of suffering, the more gently you will walk in this world. The person who cuts you off in traffic is not your enemy. They are just like you, spinning in their own web of pain and confusion. When you begin to see this, not just once but again and again, your heart opens, not with sentimental pity, but with fierce, grounded kindness. You stop asking the world to be fair, and start offering your presence to a world that is wounded and beautiful and alive. And then from wisdom and compassion arises vision. Not ambition, not fantasy, but a quiet clarity about your place in this vast impermanent. You stop measuring your life by what you've achieved, and start asking, what am I becoming? Your vision becomes less about the destination and more about the way. You ask not, what do I want from this moment, but what does this moment require of? In this vision, you see that everything is practice. Washing the dishes is practice. Listening deeply is practice. Waiting in line is practice. You don't need to escape the world to find the sacred. You only need to be fully present in it. Each moment becomes an altar, each breath a prayer, and so your purpose begins to shift. It is no longer about self-fulfillment, but about awakening for yourself and for all beings. This is not self-negation, it is self-transcendence. When you let go of needing to be someone special, you become free to be fully yourself, raw, messy, radiant. Purpose becomes less about doing and more about being. Being awake, being kind, being truthful. But purpose alone is not enough. There must be discipline, not as punishment, but as devotion. The discipline to return, again and again, to the present moment. The discipline to sit when you don't want to listen when your ego wants to defend, to remain soft in a world that rewards hardness. This is the warrior's path, not with swords, but with silence, not with conquest, but with presence. Discipline is not rigidity, it is the fire that forges resilience. It is how we remember what matters when the world pulls us in 1,000 directions. It is the vow we make, not once, but every morning, every breath, to wake up, To keep walking, even when the path disappears into fog, even when no one is watching, even when we fail and fall and forget. And fall we will. We will say the wrong thing. We will hurt the ones we love. We will lose our way. But action, skillful action, is what redeems us. Not grand gestures, but small intentional choices. To pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to choose honesty over comfort. Every action plants a seed. What you do matters. What you do becomes who you are, and who you are ripples outward. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. Your smallest act of kindness, your quietest act of restraint, echoes through this world in ways you may never see. But do it anyway. Not for reward, not for recognition, but because that is who you are becoming. This becoming is not linear. It is not a staircase, but a spiral. You will return to the same wounds. You will circle back to the same doubts. But each time, you will meet them with a little more space, a little more wisdom, a little more love. And with time, you will come to see even your struggles as sacred, even your heartbreaks as part of the path. Gratitude will no longer be reserved for the good days. It will extend to the broken ones, to the uncertain ones, to the days when all you can do is breathe and not give up. That, too, is enough. That, too, is holy. Gratitude becomes a way of seeing, not just saying thank you, but feeling it in your bones, in your breath. Thank you for this pain, for it taught me to soften. Thank you for this failure, for it stripped away illusion. Thank you for this moment, this precious, unrepeatable now. And when you live with gratitude, life changes, not because the world is different, but because you are. You begin to see beauty where others see routine. You begin to see teachers where others see obstacle. You begin to see the sacred in the ordinary, the breeze on your skin, the silence between words, the flicker of a candle in the dark. From this space of gratitude, a new quality begins to emerge within you, a gentle strength, a supple openness, adaptability, not as compromise, but as wisdom in motion. Life will not bend to your will. Plans will unravel. People will change. You will change. And still, the river flows. The awakened one does not resist the current. They learn to swim with it, to dance in the storm, to bow to impermanence without losing their ground. Adaptability is not weakness. It is presence, refined by experience. The tree that bends in the wind does not break. It survives. It flourishes. In the same way, your flexibility is not the absence of direction, but the mastery of response. When faced with change, do not ask why me. Ask, what is this teaching me? Even grief can be a teacher. Even endings can be beginnings. To adapt is to trust the unfolding, not with naive optimism, but with the calm confidence that everything is fuel for awakening. Every challenge is a sharpening stone. Every setback, an opportunity to deepen. The path of Dharma does not promise comfort, it promises truth. And truth will ask everything of you. Your belief, your preferences, your attachments. To walk this path is to surrender, again and again, to what is. But surrender is not defeat. It is the opening of the heart. It is letting go of resistance so that life can move through you, not against you. And in that movement, you find your strength. The strength that does not depend on control. The strength that does not need to win. The strength that remains still while the world spins. And when hardship comes, as it surely will, you will not collapse. You will rise. Not because you are untouched, but because you are rooted. Because resilience is not armor. It is depth. The lotus blooms from the mud. And so do you. Your resilience is not in your ability to avoid pain, but in your willingness to meet it without flinching. To sit with it. To breathe through it. To learn from it. Resilience is the fruit of practice. Every time you return to your breath instead of reacting, every time you choose to listen instead of judge, every time you show up with love when it would be easier to close. These small moments of strength accumulate. They shape you. They form the architecture of an unshakable heart. An unshakable heart does not mean a heart that never breaks. It means a heart that breaks open, again and again, and each time becomes more spacious, more generous, more alive. You will not be untouched by life, but you will be transformed by it, and in that transformation, you become a light for others. You become the presence that calms the storm in someone else's mind, the smile that reminds them they are not alone, the hand that lifts without demanding, the voice that speaks truth without blame. You become, without effort, a refuge, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And what is more powerful than that? To be real is to be willing to keep learning, always, to remain curious, even when you are tired, to admit when you are wrong, to change your mind when new wisdom emerges. Humility is not the absence of knowledge. It is the recognition that truth is always bigger than any one perspective. The Dharma is vast, and so we keep learning, from the texts, from the teachers, from the silence, from each moment. Learning is not accumulation, it is release. It is unlearning the layers of delusion, the ideas that bind us, the identities that trap us. Each insight peels away another layer until at last we are not left with more but with less. And in the less, we find enough. In enough, we find peace. A peace that does not depend on condition. A peace that is not waiting for the world to be perfect. A peace that is here now in this breath, if only we stop running long enough to feel it. This is not the promise of escape. It is the invitation to return to what is real, what is alive, what has always been waiting beneath the noise. You in your rawness, you in your confusion, you in your boundless capacity to begin again, again, and again, and again. There is no final arrival, no finish line. There is only this breath, this step, this choice, and in each choice, the whole path is revealed. So choose presence, choose love, choose to wake up. You must choose again and again, not because you are broken, but because you are free. That is the great paradox. Freedom does not come from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. Freedom comes from understanding your nature so deeply, so intimately, that the illusions fall away, and what remains is clarity, luminous and unshaken. This clarity isn't loud, it doesn't demand, it doesn't boast. It simply is. Like the still surface of a mountain lake, it reflects reality just as it is. No distortion, no fear, no craving. This is the awakened mind, and it is not reserved for saints or monks or mystics on distant mountains. It is available to you in this very life, in this very body, in this very moment. But to see with such clarity, you must be willing to look deeply, not with judgment, not with denial, but with the gentle, penetrating gaze of mindfulness. You watch the mind as it contracts and expands. You notice how it clings, how it fears, how it pretends, and then, as if a veil were lifted, you see the mind is just movement, just thought, just sensation. It is not you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the space in which they arise. You are the awareness that sees. This seeing is the essence of awakening, and it changes everything. You no longer chase permanence in an impermanent world. You no longer beg life to be what it cannot. Instead, you bow to the way things are, and in that bow you rise. Free not because life became easier, but because your relationship to life has changed. This is the revolution of the heart. A quiet revolution. A revolution that transforms suffering not through resistance, but through understanding, through loving awareness, through presence. And yes, presence takes courage. It is easier to run, easier to distract, easier to numb. But if you stay when your heart is aching, when your ego is trembling, when the silence is loud, something shifts. Something breaks open, and through that opening pours a light you did not know you carried. That light is your true nature. It does not belong to any religion. It is not owned by any culture. It is the birthright of every being. The Buddha did not create this light. He merely uncovered it and showed us that we can do the same. You don't need to wait. You don't need to be better first. You don't need to be healed or fixed or more spiritual. You only need to begin. Begin by paying attention. Begin by being kind. Begin by telling the truth to yourself, to others, to life. Begin by sitting with your breath and asking nothing of it. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be. This being is not passivity. It is presence in action. It is listening so deeply that wisdom begins to speak. Not in words, but in knowing. A knowing that guides your steps, shapes your speech, aligns your life with the deeper rhythm of existence. And when your life is aligned, not perfect, not painless, but aligned, you become a vessel. The Dharma flows through you. Compassion flows through you. Joy flows through you. Not because you have grasped them, but because you have let go. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of needing to win. Let go of needing to be seen, to be validated, to be understood. These are the hunger cries of the small self, the self that fears, the self that clings, the self that forgets its own infinite nature. When you let go of that self, what remains is not nothing. What remains is love. A love so vast, it includes all beings. A love that sees no separation. A love that holds your suffering and mine in the same gentle palm. And that love becomes your practice, not as an idea, but as a way of living. A way of moving through the world with eyes open and heart undefended. A way of touching each person, each moment, with the tenderness it deserves, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because there will be days when you forget, when fear comes roaring back, when the old patterns grip tight. That's okay. That too is part of the path. Do not shame yourself for forgetting. Celebrate each remembering. Each time you return to the breath, return to presence, return to love. You are building the path, brick by brick, step by step, moment by sacred moment. This is the way of awakening, quiet, steady, humble, and utterly transformative. And so we come to the final turning of this great wheel, not as an ending, but as a return to what was always within you, waiting to be recognized. A return to the truth that has no name, no boundary, no opposite. Reality. To understand the nature of reality, you must first understand that nothing you perceive is fixed. All things arise and pass away. Everything, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, your possessions, your memories, is in flux. The world is not a stable stage upon which you play out a permanent identity. It is a flowing river, and you too are part of that river. The moment you try to hold on, to freeze, to control, suffering arises. But the moment you release, the moment you surrender to the current, you discover you are not drowning. You are being carried by life, carried by the Dharma, carried by the great truth that you are not separate from anything, not from the sky, not from the soil, not from your enemy, not from the stranger passing you on the street. All things are. To see this is not a metaphor, it is an awakening. And in this awakening, you stop seeking yourself in the mirror of external success. You stop measuring your worth by what you accomplish or what others think of you. You stop trying to arrive, and instead you begin to be here, now, fully. In this moment, as you listen, something ancient within you stirs. A memory not of thought but of knowing. A sense that you have heard this before, not in words, but in the silence between words, in the hush of a forest at dawn, in the stillness of a long-held gaze, in the breath that carries you through every joy and sorrow. This knowing does not demand that you change the world, only that you live in it with your eyes open, that you serve not from ego, but from presence, that you create not from fear, but from love, that you rest not in apathy, but in awareness. When you live like this, simply, deeply, honestly, the world begins to shift around you. Not because you forced it to, but because you became a tuning fork for peace. You became a beacon, a quiet reminder that it is possible to live with integrity in a chaotic world, that it is possible to embody stillness in the midst of movement, that it is possible to awaken fully in this lifetime. But you must choose it. You must return to the cushion when the mind rebels. You must speak the truth when silence would be easier. You must offer your presence when distraction beckons. This path is not passive. It is a call to action, a call to radical presence, to courageous love, to embodied wisdom. And when you forget, because you will forget, you begin again, gently, without shame, without delay. Just begin again. Each moment is a doorway, each breath a chance to return. And as you return, again and again, you will begin to notice something remarkable, that the peace you were chasing was never somewhere else, that the truth you were seeking was never hidden, that the love you longed for was never outside of you. It was always here, always now, always waiting. All you had to do was see, and now you do. Let the teachings take root, not in your intellect, but in your life. Let your every word be a bell of mindfulness. Let your every step leave a footprint of compassion. Let your presence become a blessing, not just for you, but for the world. This is the gift of the Dharma, not a set of rules, not a religion, but a way of being, a way of seeing, a way of living that brings you home, to yourself, to this breath, to this sacred fleeting life. So let this be your vow, to wake up, to stay awake, to help others do the same, not with force, not with judgment, but with love, with presence, with unwavering joy. You have heard the truth, now live it. And as the night deepens and the stars settle into their silence, may your heart rest in stillness. May your heart rest in stillness. May your mind be clear. May your breath be soft. May you sleep not as an escape, but as a surrender into the arms of awareness.